After the end of World War II, the world was split into two, East and West. This marked the beginning of the era called the Cold War.
Welcome back to the second episode of the Little Learning Show. Today we are the History Show, and we will be focusing on the Korean War.
That is correct. I'm Charlie. With me, as always, is Henry R.
I think it's supposed to go the other way around, but okay. So, Korean War. Where did that take place, Charlie? Why don't you?
That was in the Malay archipelago.
Oh,
No, I'm
you're
just
wrong.
joking. That was the Korean Peninsula.
Yeah.
Which consists of both North and South Korea. However, the country of China also heavily took place within the war.
Yes. Now, the Korean War lasted from June of 1950 to July of 1953.
Officially.
Although in 1953, it was an armistice that was signed and not an official peace treaty.
Since we have started filming, the Korean War has ended.
It's not official yet.
An armistice, it's like a ceasefire, but more official.
However, due to recent events taking place in the Korean Peninsula, the two Koreas have pledged to a new era of peace, with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un going as far as to say, "A new history starts now, an age of peace from the starting point of history." However, we still have yet to see how this plays out, but the two countries have agreed to end the decades-long war.
But enough with current events. Let's dive into the history.
All right. So, as we said before, the Korean War started in 1950 when Kim Il-sung sent North Korean forces across the border into South Korea.
These North Korean forces attacked multiple South Korean towns as well as a small U.S. troop station, which is kind of how the United Nations got involved.
Speaking of the United Nations, the task force sent by the United Nations consisted of forces from the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Turkey, Australia, the Philippines, New Zealand, Thailand, Ethiopia, Greece, France, Colombia, Belgium, South Africa, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. They were fighting against the forces that were supporting North Korea, which involved the North Koreans themselves, China, and the Soviet Union. The communist forces supporting North Korea supplied a steady stream of supplies and resources to support the North Koreans. That looked something like this.
The things they do for America.
The United Nations and many democratic countries supplied South Korea with a boom of resources. That looked something like this.
The things I do for America.
The leader of the South Korean forces was Syngman Rhee.
And he was the first president of South Korea. He also attended Princeton University and was the first Korean American to receive a PhD in the United States.
However, on the North Korean side, they were led by Kim Il-sung, first president of North Korea. And he was the first of the Kim family to take power in North Korea. It went Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il, and then Kim Jong-un, who we have today.
That is correct.
They were supported by, as we said before, China and the Soviet Union, whose leaders were Mao Zedong and Joseph Stalin.
Yes, just to clarify, that is the People's Republic of China, not Taiwan.
The Republic of China, also known as Taiwan, did not support North Korea. Let's talk about some of the battles that took place during the Korean War. We got the Battle of Incheon.
That is a notable battle, and we apologize for any mispronunciation of Korean words.
Yeah, we're not native Koreans, as you may be able to tell, but let's talk about the belligerents in this battle. Fighting against North Korea was the United Nations Task Force, which had South Korea, the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and France.
Français.
Yes, are you going to finish that croissant?
Knock yourself out. Let me assure you that
To sincerely apologize to any people of French descent that we may have offended with our past remark. We apologize and we stepped across the line. We took it too far. We will not use your croissants or accordion music in a joking way. Again, we're sorry.
Yeah, we are sincerely sorry. It's not okay to make fun of France.
Okay. We're sorry, France. Please accept our apology.
We surrender.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the battle, Charlie?
Well, the Central Intelligence Agency, or CIA, as you may know it, it was like a joint CIA military battle. And what they did is they had a bunch of ships outside of Korea, and they just shot at Korea.
This battle was the one that turned the tide from the favor of
the ocean tides.
it destroyed the moon. No, this battle changed the tide of the war from being in favor of the North
The tide
to
tides.
being in favor of the United Nations and South Korean forces.
Yes, definitely. After this battle, the UN forces quickly gained lots of North Korean territory. Then they marched on the North Korean capital of Pyongyang, and we got pretty far northward.
Yeah.
Before they retaliated.
And the only way that they beat back the United Nations forces was they got China to intervene, and they marched a bunch of troops across the border and beat back the South Korean forces.
So essentially, it was Chinese troops funded by Soviet equipment fighting on the North Korean front.
That's how it went down.
Now, the ending of the Korean War has been highly contested for a long time. There has not been an official peace treaty signed as of yet, and that is
never technically declared war.
yeah, and that is likely not to happen. An official end to the war is likely not yet to happen until sometime later this year. So we decided to ask people on the street what they thought of the outcome of the Korean War.
And we are on. Hi, welcome. Today I am interviewing our local rotisserie chicken, Nikki.
Hi.
Hi. I'm just going to ask you a few questions about the Korean War. Do you know anything about that? Good. All right. Do you know who won the Korean War?
Vietnam.
Okay. All right. Do you know capital of South Korea?
Seoul.
Very good. You're number one. Do you know where does K-pop come from? Nice hair flip. Do you know where it comes from? It's very relevant.
South Korea.
Very muchas good. And welcome back. I am interviewing local cyclist Herman LaFleur.
Hello. I am a local cyclist, as you may have heard, and boy, do I know things about the Korean War. You could ask me, where did it happen? Korea, you know.
All right, I ask the questions around here.
Oh, I see how it is.
All right. Who was the American general at the time?
Herman LaFleur Sr.
Well, you're wrong, but I like the way you think. What is Korea?
Vietnam.
Slim to none.
And I think we're done with this interviewee.
All right, we're back with another interviewee. This time we have local Icelandic voyager Alec.
It's quite nice in here.
All right. Now, let's get started with some questions about the Korean War.
Right.
Now, what was the role of North Korean Nam-il in the Korean conflict?
Nam-il. Well, I can tell you that in most of the north, they live in a very igneous climate. So they've got a lot of basalt and quite a bit of volcanic activity there. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Now, why don't you tell us what was a major battle of the Korean War?
Well, there's a kind of a constant struggle between metamorphic rock and this sedimentary action. It's a constant struggle, a constant battle between the two states of being. It's a lot of pressure from both sides, forcing one into the other.
All right. Now, where is Pyeongchang?
Pyeongchang occurs in a magma chamber deep inside the volcano. If lava stays there, or magma at that point stays there for long, it can start to form crystals, and those can really erupt into more influential characters later on.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Local
Pleasure.
Icelandic voyager.
Pleasure.
We're here with our next interviewee, Charlotte.
Oh, Charlotte Taylor.
Yeah. Speak up. All right. The real question is, who won the Korean War?
Nobody?
Nobody? All right.
Read my Jorgen von Strangle fanfiction.
Please.
Let's start talking about it.
Is that cut?
Okay.
I'm still rolling.
Now,
Yeah.
next question.
Okay.
Where is the city of Busan?
I don't know. Out of my knowledge.
Wrong. Okay. This concludes this concludes the interview. Thank you for coming on the show. Please welcome Robin, our resident expert on the Korean War.
Hello.
Now, I'd like you to answer me this question. Who won the Korean War?
Well, that's up for debate since there was no official treaty signed, so pretty much the war is still going on. Sort of like the Soviet Union and the US during the Cold War.
All right.
Thank you for that answer. Now, it's time for the bonus question. Where is Pyongyang?
I'm going to say somewhere in South Korea.
Wrong. It's the capital of North Korea. Thank you very much, Robin. It's been a pleasure.
All right, so we've been explaining to you the Korean War so far, but now, for those of you visual learners out there, we will provide you with a visual aid to the Korean War.
Right. Visual aid. This is Korea, the whole peninsula. This is North Korea. See this? Yeah, right? That gets the U.S. angry. See that? Does that footprint show up on camera? No. Well, there's somebody stepped on it.
And you can kind of see.
Imagine that's the U.S. station there. They get angry because look, North Korea kind of went in there. This is the UN.
I used to work at a soda can crushing factory.
Get out of
It
here.
was so depressing.
We're learning. This is Korea. There's two Koreas now, see? South Korea and North Korea.
What about the other one?
That's just like Japan or something. I don't
Well,
know.
that's North Korea.
Those are the islands at the bottom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So there we go. Right in here.
Very professional.
This is
And
what's
the
known
US
as the.
gets out of there. Right? Never to be seen again. Except they're there all the time.
Right in here. This is what's known as the 38th parallel.
DMZ.
Yeah, also known as the demilitarized zone. It's ironic because it's the most militarized zone in the world. It divides the two Koreas
What do you
and
call a sad dog?
Let's talk about General MacArthur's original plan to end the Korean War. I think you have some knowledge on this, don't you?
Yeah, it was just like Duke Nukem. You know, he wanted to nuke him.
I love that idea.
Your opinion is trash.
Yeah, like 20 to 30 tactical nukes along the northern part of North Korea, right next to China. General MacArthur of the United States wanted to drop a large amount of nuclear bombs on North Korea to end the Korean War. Needless to say, this did not happen due to ethical complications.
Yes, that's correct. He didn't just want to nuke the border just straight up. He strategically chose airfields and military bases along the border. And then from there, he would nuke the entire border and place down radioactive cobalt along the length of the border to stop any Soviet or Chinese troops from getting across. I think that was a pretty good idea, if you ask me, which you did.
Your opinion is recycling. Yeah, that was his plan. Didn't happen. As you can see, we're all still alive. World War III did not happen.
That's what they want you to think.
The end result, many different countries were involved with the Korean War. Many different countries claimed victory. Like China, they claimed victory because their main ideal in the war was to prevent American aggression from the North Koreans.
Yes, in fact, the Chinese name for the Korean conflict is the war to aid North Korea against American aggression, I believe.
That's right. However, if you were to ask the North Korean government, they would say, since the war has not officially ended, there is no victor.
Yes, they are still at war, while America never technically declared war. So that's a bit of a kersnuffle,
Yeah,
if you will.
it's a little bit of a gray area there. Good. All right. Let's talk about what happened after the war with a divided Korea. They there was a lot of aggression between the two sides, between the North and the South. And one of the incidents that highlights this is known as Operation Paul Bunyan. I believe you have some knowledge of this subject.
Yeah.
What you doing?
What? Oh, that's just my impression of a Honda Civic.
All right. Why don't you tell us about Operation Paul Bunyan?
Yes, Operation Paul Bunyan, otherwise known as the Korean Axe Murder Incident. Alright, the DMZ, that's the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea, right? It's like the border, it's like buffer zone, you know. So there's a tree on it, and America wanted to cut it down so we could see, get a better line of sight into North Korea, just in case, you know. And so we told North Korea, we're like, hey, we're cutting down this tree. And they're like, yeah, okay, whatever. So we start cutting it down, and North Korea is like, no way, stop. Kim Il-sung planted that tree. And if you know anything about North Korea, is that Kim Il-sung is like a god there, you know. He's like primo guy. So they're like, stop cutting down the tree. Kim Il-sung planted it. And we're like, we don't care. We're gonna keep chopping it down. And North Korea was like, we're gonna shoot at you if you keep chopping that down. And then we said, hold that thought. And we retreated quickly. And then we ordered a bunch of air support and nuclear bombers and like a giant aircraft carrier off the coast. Got in all these troops from Japan and the United Nations, and we came back in. We had special ops guys come in with chainsaws and taekwondo training. And they just went into the DMZ and started chopping down the tree. And North Korea, they said, we told you we're going to shoot at you if we chop down the tree. And then the guy in charge at the time, I don't remember his name, he said, call in the air support. And then he arranged so that all the attack helicopters and fighter jets would arise from the horizon in unison. Right? So at that moment, North Korea was like, oh my gosh, we need more guys. So they went into North Korea and they got, I think, 200 extra men to aim their weapons at the tree being cut down. There were then armored vehicles placed in front of the tree to prevent gunfire from attacking them. It was a huge endeavor. It almost started World War III. And we chopped down the tree. There's a giant stump there. Well, not anymore. They put a plaque there now. But there used to be a giant stump. And then we chopped down the tree, better line of sight, and now the wood from that tree was turned into a swagger stick for one of the generals, one of the U.S. generals. So yeah, that happened. North Korea was like, oh my god. And we were like, take that.
Yeah. In conclusion, the Korean War, all it did was divide the two Koreas even further. The borders did not change, nor did their political situations. And tensions over it are only just now starting to get lowered. The Korean War, the effects of it can still be seen today with the demilitarized zone and the increased aggression between the two sides of Korea.
Yes, that is correct. One could say the only outcome of the war was greater war technologies and more radicalized, militarized nation states in Korea. As they'd say in Latin, status quo ante bellum. That means it's the same as it was before the war.
Alright. We're good.